Do you know when to walk down the aisle? Hello lovely brides, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lauren, wedding planner and owner of Bluebird Creative, and I am feeling super autumn today. In fact, I think I look like a spiced pumpkin latte. No? Okay, fine. If you don't want to miss out on a weekly dose of wedding planning goodness for the stylish bride, make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit the bell, and you'll be notified every Tuesday when I post a new video. I'm a bit excited. It's my birthday in 2 days. So, you know, I'm getting old. Anyway, let's talk about why you're here. You're here because you don't know the order of a wedding ceremony. But that's okay, because I do. And I'm going to tell you. So let's dive in. So we're hopping in from about 30 minutes before the ceremony starts. And I'm going to take you through the order of events or the order of ceremony for a civil ceremony. Okay, so first things first, about 30 minutes before the ceremony, your registrar, now bearing in mind again, civil ceremony I said, not church wedding, okay? Don't want to confuse anybody here. Little disclaimer. So, civil ceremony, the registrar will meet with the groom approximately 30 minutes before the ceremony. Now your registrar will obviously speak to you on the lead up to the wedding, and they will let you know the exact times or rough times, and they will come and get you. So don't panic too much, but just be aware around 30 minutes before the ceremony, they are coming to find you. And they will just talk about a couple of bits to do with the ceremony, make sure you are who you say you are, and so on. Then what you want to do about 30 minutes before the ceremony, so maybe when the groom's off doing his thing with the registrar, you want to have the music starting to play, ready for your guests to arrive and start taking their seats. I always think it's nice to do it 30 minutes before. It gives people time, it sets a mood, it gets people excited. So 30 minutes before, guest arrival music begins. As guests are arriving, your ushers can start handing out orders of the day or orders of ceremony. Your registrars will not allow you to call it orders of service because that is a church ceremony and this is not a church ceremony, what I'm referring to anyway. So order of service for a church ceremony, order of ceremony for a civil ceremony. Not orders of the day, Lauren. That is something completely different. Approximately 15 minutes before the ceremony, the registrar will then have a chat with the bride and the father of the bride, and they're likely to go in together. And again, they're just going to go through a few formalities and a few bits to do with the ceremony and make sure that the father of the bride is giving the bride away, and they'll just go through some of the details that you've put in the information that you've sent to them. So about 5 minutes before the ceremony is about to start, the mother of the bride will go and take her seat. It's up to you whether you want her to be escorted by, for example, the best man or an usher. But anyway, she will go and take her seat, which is usually to the front left. That's if you're looking down the aisle towards where you're going to get married. If you're looking back up the aisle, they're on the right. Once the mother of the bride has taken her seats, everybody kind of knows that the bridal party has arrived, and they'll all be sat down and hopefully things will start to get a little bit quiet. At that point, you will want to make sure that the musicians or the person pressing play on the iPad knows to press play or to start playing the processional music. Once the processional music begins, that is obviously cue that the wedding is beginning. Now, whether you've decided to have the bride going first or the bridesmaids going first, I have a video on what order means what and traditions. So if you haven't seen that already, I will link it up here. So once the bride makes her way to the end of the aisle, she will hand her bouquet over to somebody on the left, usually the maid of honour, and they will sit down and hold her bouquet for her. The father of the bride stays there for a moment, and the bride is obviously stood next to the groom. Father of the bride is on her left, groom will be on her right with the best man. The registrar will do an introduction and then they will ask everybody to be seated. So the best man will take his seat, everybody else will take their seats, and the father of the bride will go and sit next to his wife on the left, or his partner, or whoever he's with. The next part of the ceremony is usually a reading if you've decided to go for that option. You do not have to have readings in your ceremony. If you've chosen to have one, now will be a good time to have one. You must make sure in a civil ceremony that there is no religious connotation, otherwise you won't be allowed it. They all need to be pre-sent to your registrar so that they can check them over. So if there is any religious connotations, they will not be allowed. So make sure you've double checked that and don't get your heart set on something that you then can't have. The registrar will then go through what is called the definition of marriage according to the law. They will then call for any legal impediment to the marriage. The bride and groom will then declare whether they are free to marry or not. And then the bride is given away by the father of the bride, or whoever is giving the bride away. The marriage is then solemnised by using the contracting vows, and then there is the exchange of rings. Now, all of that is done by the registrar. You do not need to panic. I know it sounds confusing. You just have to follow their instructions. So do not panic. I know it sounded a bit confusing what I was saying. I'm just letting you know what they will go through. Do not panic. If you decided to go for readings, and if you've gone for 2, you'll then have another reading after that. Same rules apply, no religious connotation. After your second reading, there is then the announcement of husband and wife. And that's when you can kiss the bride. Next, you'll have the signing of the register. Now, you need to make sure that you've asked 2 people to be your witnesses. There must be 2. And they will come up to the front, they'll be called up by the registrar, and then they will witness the signing of the register. And they will have to sign as well to say that they've witnessed it. No photos are allowed at that point because you are legally not allowed to take any pictures of the real register. The registrar will do a mock-up so that you can take some photos afterwards. At that point, you also want some music playing to keep the guests happy and to keep the mood and to prevent silence. After that, the processional music is played and the bride and groom will walk back up the aisle and exit out of the room or the church, wherever it is that they are getting married. You may want to be throwing confetti when they walk back down the aisle, depending on the location and the venue, or that might happen later on outside. So bear that in mind. It might not be part of the ceremony, but it might also be part of the ceremony. If it is, your ushers will need to be on it and they will need to have handed out confetti prior to the ceremony and given the information to the guests so they know what is happening. The bridesmaids and the ushers will then be the next people to walk back down the aisle along with the bride's and groom's family, and then the guests will start to exit. It is then ideally up to your ushers to start showing people to the drinks reception, whether that's at the same venue, which with a civil ceremony it usually is, or if you have had a church wedding, then the ushers will obviously be there to give directions and some information to the guests for where they need to go next. Okay, so there you have it. It's pretty simple really. It's not too long. There's not too much to worry about. So I really, really, really hope that that's put your mind at ease and that you don't need to stress about what's happening. The registrars are usually wonderful. Your venue will no doubt be wonderful. And if you're still really worried about it, then why not consider taking on an on-the-day coordinator just to help put your mind at ease and know that all of that is dealt with and that timeline is slick. If you liked this video, give this a like, give me some comments in the box below and let me know if that has really helped you with your ceremony timeline and that you now know what you're actually doing and what's going to happen. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe to my channel and I will see you next week for some more wedding planning goodness.